So welcome everybody. I want to remind you that this is your practice. So if you need to take what I'm saying just as a suggestion, you could modify any way. You can change how you're practicing to level up or increase the energy, or level down and decrease the energy. And we will get started. So we're actually going to start standing today. If you want to go ahead and come to standing. This is a gentle yoga practice this morning. So the intention is to wake up the body and get us moving. So standing right where you are, let's just take a moment to kind of sway the hips a little side to side and wake up the joints. Maybe sort of turn a little this way and that way. So when I turn in this way, side to side, I try to pick up my toe so that I don't hurt my knee. And maybe let your head turn. But if you get dizzy at all when your head is turning side to side, then just keep your head straight forward. And then come on back to center. Take a big reach towards the ceiling. Thinking of sending your feet down to the ground at the same time. You could even interlace your hands and press your palms up towards the ceiling. And then take a breath in. And as you exhale, reach the arms away and come back down to center. And we're going to do that again. So inhale, you could interlace your arms if you'd like, or just reach. Take an inhale breath. And then as you exhale, reaching around and coming back down again. Just one more time. Inhale and exhale. And then check in with how you're feeling in your body. Maybe there's some places that feel like they're taking a little more of your attention than other places. And if that's the case, just maybe moving into those places. So maybe rolling into the neck or the shoulders. Sometimes when I do this, I'll bring my hands to my rib cage or the back of my ribs so that I can find my breath a little deeper. Maybe circling the shoulders. You could even circle the whole arm to wake up those shoulders. And waking up the spine, one of my favorite ways is to take your stance a little wider. So stand left to right a little wider on your mat. And then chin to chest and just rolling down. So I'm going to bend my knees a little to really root my feet down into the ground and roll myself down towards the ground, trying to keep a consistent speed. Once I'm hanging, I'm going to think of pushing my feet down, but lifting my seat up. And then pushing through the feet, let the arms hang like empty coat sleeves. We're going to come all the way back up again. Like you're having a race to be the slowest. And once you're standing, the shoulders can roll back, around, and down. So as you're moving, see if you can imagine or try to move one vertebra at a time. This time, though, we're going to go side to side. So from the top vertebra, you can have your hands to your waist or just cross the arms in front of you. And then take your spine over to one side. Imagine like you're glued to an imaginary wall behind you. And then come all the way back up. And then the other way. Nice and slow into the hips. Good. And then once again, you can just circle the hips a little bit or circle the arms. Move your body however you'd like. Sometimes I like to kind of stay in one place, keep my knees a little soft, to kind of bounce into my heels a little bit. I thought it might be nice to start off the morning standing today and end lying down on the mat. So we'll just be standing for another couple of moments. This time I'll turn sideways just to demonstrate this. We're going to take a step back with one foot, keep both legs relatively straight, but the knees are a little bit soft. Think of sending, so I've got my right foot forward, that's my front foot. So think of sending the hip of your front foot back a little bit, soften both knees, and try to fold over the tops of your legs. So your whole back stays nice and long as you can. And then right at the end, rounding the spine and rolling yourself back up. So we're going to do that a couple of times, keeping the legs as straight as possible. Try to keep the weight on the back foot. If it's hard for you to keep weight on the back foot, just step that back foot a little closer to the front foot. Send your hips back, hinge right at that hip crease. Send your bum way back in space. Keep your legs as straight as possible, your spine as straight as possible, until the end when you can fold down and roll back up. And we'll do the same thing to transition on the other side. So just switch feet. Same thing on the other side now. Hinging at the hip crease. Send your bum way back in space. Legs relatively straight. Long spine, and then fold. Roll back up. And one more time. Send your hips back, folding to flat back. At the last possible second, then fold. And then rolling yourself back up. Finding a stabilizing movement. Reach your right hand forward, straight arm. Flex your palm so the fingers point downwards, and then maybe take your hand and just pull the fingers gently back. Or if proportions don't allow for you to do so, just find like a flat surface that's not a window to place your fingertips upon. Think of sending your shoulder down and all of that tension, all of that energy right off of the hand. Breathing for a couple of breaths. And then we'll let that go. We'll do the same thing to the other side. So reach out straight, flex the palm. If this is already feeling like about a 6 or 7 out of 10, that's more than enough sensation. If it's not really feeling like very much sensation at all, that's when you can bring your hand to a wall or place your opposite hand maybe down to pull the fingers back. And if it gets tense, think of, instead of bringing the tension up to the shoulder, think of sending it down through the arm. Then sort of wave to stretch that out or move that energy out. Shake the hands a little bit. Come to stand and check in once again with how you're feeling, scanning through the body. Typically places that feel like a little more sensation will take our attention. So notice in your own body where you're feeling sensations in your body. Now, can you bring your hands maybe to the front of your belly and breathing in and out through the nose, just gently welcome breath. If standing here is creating a lot of discomfort in your body, feel free to come to sit. Maybe then bring your hands to the side ribs and see if you can bring breath underneath your hands here. And now flip your palms so your thumbs kind of stay rooted where they are, but your fingers flip to the back, almost like you're about to put your hands into your jean pockets. And see if you can bring some breath back into the back of your body. Now take a breath or two, and we're going to make our way down towards seated. So to find a comfortable seat, I've got a really hard, firm pillow. It's like about as palm width or so. So we're going to come to sit on something that's at least that high. And if you need some more height, you can grab a folded blanket and bring yourself higher. So how you know if you need some more height is if there's any discomfort when you come to sit, or more specifically, if it's difficult for your hips to come on top of your knees. So in this position, I can sit in a way where my hips are higher than my knees. If you bring your hips up so high that it's creating strain in your knees, it's a good idea to bring something underneath your knees as well, just to keep them nice and soft. And then try to find yourself in what feels like a neutral spine. So it doesn't matter how your legs are, if they feel better straight out or feet together, knees open, maybe they're crossed like mine. It's completely up to you. But in order to facilitate the environment for the best potential breath, we're going to try to find a relatively neutral spine. So try shifting yourself forward and back. Try changing some of the curvatures in your spine, and try to find a place where it feels as though your spine can just kind of float on top of your hips. And then shift and change the curvatures of your neck. Try to find a place where it feels like your head can just kind of float on top of your neck. And then imagine that somebody turns gravity up just a couple of degrees. So it's almost like you get a little heavier and sink a little deeper into your seat. And with every inhalation, your head is like a balloon tied to a string, reaching up towards the sky, grounding down towards the floor. Now, from this seated position, try to visualize the back of your head, behind your heart, and your tail are all connected against a straight line, like a wall, for example. And keeping yourself on that imaginary wall, you're going to place your one hand down, reach up and over to the side, and find a bit of a side bend. So I'm not going to collapse into my right side, and I'm not going to lift off of my left side. As you inhale, coming to center, reach the arms straight and bring them just a little behind you if you can, without flaring the ribs. So the action is really just of the shoulder blades. And then find the same thing on the other side. So I'm not just going to collapse into the side. I'm going to think of lifting up and over, and I'm going to ground down. So as I'm leaning over to my left here, I'm grounding on my right, inhaling and exhaling. See if you can move with your own breath. So some people might choose to practice with their eyes closed so that they're more encouraged to move with their own breath. And if it feels really good on one side or on the other, feel free to linger there for a couple of breaths. So maybe it feels really good when you come to the side and you just want to stay there and sort of marinate in that feeling for a couple of breaths. Go ahead and do so. Remember, this is your practice. So whatever your body needs this morning, that's what this time and this space is for. So once you've done what feels like about an equal amount on both sides, let's meet back in the center. And once again, find ourselves with a breath or two. Now, I know a lot of us, or more and more of us, are spending times seated and at the computers, or more sedentary. So, I'm going to invite us to practice a couple of restorative poses. But before we do so, I'd like to welcome you to come onto the belly if it feels comfortable for you. So once you come down onto the belly, just take a couple of breaths, kind of rock back and forth here. You can have your temple, you can have your head turned to one side, rather, resting on a temple, or you could bring palm on top of palm underneath your forehead. To find a little bit more comfort, curl the toes of your right foot under. Lift your right knee off the floor, and in one action, you're going to send your right heel back and kind of lift the hip and send it back a little bit further away from your body. And then the left toes, lift the left knee, push the left heel back, and get as much space in the front of the hips as possible. And then you might come up a little onto your forearms, like you're trying to stay very low, and just inch your rib cage kind of forward a little. Get as much space as possible. And then when you come to rest here, the nice part about this relationship to gravity, take the legs as wide as you'd like, maybe bend the knees and windshield wiper. But the nice part about this relationship to gravity is it really gives you the opportunity to notice where some sensitivities are. So as you breathe in now, send your breath into the back of your body. And most especially, visualize those places that are feeling a little bit more tender, and try to send your breath exclusively into those spaces. Fill them with air. Maybe it feels really lovely for you to be lying in this way. Maybe you want to bend the knees and start to kind of rock your hips side to side by dropping feet to one side and feet to the other. Now, for a moment, come back to center. Bend your knees and bring both feet straight up to the ceiling. So, if you are turned onto one temple, it might be a good idea for you to come just onto forehead. So, maybe palm on top of palm, or fist on top of fist under your forehead. Now, in a moment, we're going to move the feet, and but the movement of the feet is really orchestrated by the movement of the upper leg. So both feet move away from each other, and the upper leg you can feel rotating in the hip. Both feet move towards each other and sort of cross at the shin or at the ankle. And really, I might cue the feet, but I want you to visualize how the leg bone is rotating in the hip socket. So, in this particular movement, I want you to keep both hips, the front of the hip bones, flat to the floor. So, if your hips had headlights, they're going to stay rooted to the floor the whole time, and bring both feet over to the left. So you're only going so far that the leg can rotate in the hip socket, but the hip itself isn't going to lift off the floor. And then keep your left foot where it is. Take your right foot and rotate it as far as you can to the right. Keep your right foot where it is, and we're going to take your left over to meet the right. Stay really mindful that the fronts of the hips stay rooted towards the floor. Keep your left foot where it is and take your right and cross it in front as far as it will go to the left. Now keep your right foot, the one that was just moving where it is. Let's cross the other one in front as far as it can go to the right. And then just let that go. Maybe rock the hips a little side to side. We're going to bring the hands under the shoulders and press back to child's pose or forearm resting pose. So press up onto hands and knees. Go really slowly here because we were on our bellies for quite a few breaths. Start off resting on your forearms. So the knees are going to widen to make room for the body. On your forearms, you can bring fist on top of fist underneath your head. And breathe into the back of the body. If you'd like, your palms can go lower to the floor, flatten to the floor, and your head might move closer to the floor. And then very slowly, as you feel ready, once again, press yourself back up towards a seated shape. So you can roll through the spine. Take your time to roll towards seated. Seated once again on your pillows or on your blankets. Right back to where we started. And in this seated shape, take a moment to check in with how you're feeling. Maybe you'll allow your eyes to stay open. Maybe they'll close. You're welcome to bring yourself to a different position than seated. We're going to do a little bit of a guided reflection or a guided meditation of sorts. So I'll invite you to move yourself into any posture where you feel completely comfortable and supported. Maybe that's on your back or your belly. Maybe it's seated in your favorite chair. Bring your attention to your left foot. And with that attention to your left foot, imagine the left foot feeling light, feeling radiant, feeling grounded. And then bring your attention to your right foot. And visualize that right foot feeling light, feeling radiant, and feeling grounded. Maybe that imaginatory exploration was a feeling. Maybe it brought up a visual sensation or an association. Whatever came up for you when you visualized a sense of lightness, a sense of radiance, a sense of grounding. Let that feeling slowly move up each leg. Maybe one and then the other, maybe at the same time. Not just the front and the back, but all four sides. And right through the tissues, through the bones, to the very depths of the center of your legs. Into the minor architectures of the knees. All the way up to the foundation of your hips. And then let that same energy start to weave itself like a figure eight pattern back and forth through the center of yourself, from your left hip to your right hip, and your right hip to your left hip. Around your spine, circling, intertwining, moving in a figure eight pattern, each vertebra a different opportunity to feel light, to feel radiant, to feel grounded. Continue this visualization, this intertwining of energy back and forth, all the way up to the base of the skull. Up into the eyes and the ears, your nose and your mouth, to your head, radiating down your face, over your shoulders, and down each arm, all the way down to the very tips of the fingers. Filling yourself all the way to the depths of your center and back out again with a sense of lightness, of radiance, and of grounding. And I'll invite you now to find yourself as comfortable as possible as we move into the final parts of our practice. So this is a time for you to care for your physical, as much as possible. If you're feeling chilled, to cover with a blanket or put on socks, to grab water, to use the bathroom, whatever you need to do to feel physically comfortable here. And then find yourself maybe exactly where you are in the shape that you're in, maybe in a different pose. One that prioritizes a feeling of comfort, safety. In your physical representation of this last pose of the practice today, I'll invite you to embody a sense of lightness. Taking all of the heavy, constricted parts of yourself and adjusting and shifting yourself so that they feel light, soft, buoyant, almost weightless. Allowing as many muscles as you can to relax, trusting that I'll tell you when it's time to come out of this shape, that I'll tell you when our practice is over, that you can fully submerge yourself in this exploration inwards. Find an anchor for yourself, something in this present moment. Maybe the sound of your breath. Maybe a feeling or a visualization in your body. Anything that helps keep you present in this space, and use that anchor to pull you back to this present moment as often as you need. So, as many times as you drift towards sleep or get distracted, use this anchor to continue to come back and allow for these next few moments to be a practice in getting distracted and coming back, falling asleep and coming back until you hear my voice again. Notice that you're breathing. With gratitude, let go of your anger and start to blur your focus away from that single point and more towards all of the sounds in the space that you're in. The temperature of the room, the light. Let your ears stretch a little further to the rooms adjacent to yours. Let your ears stretch as far as they will to the cars moving by in the street outside or the wind in the trees. The sound of air flowing in your house if you have your heat on. And then back to the sound and the feeling of your own breath. Blinking your eyes awake, stretching your body. As you feel ready, start to make your way to a seated shape so you can slowly roll to one side. You could press up towards seated. Take your time as needed to come up towards a seated shape. You could sit with your legs crossed or straight in front. You could sit in a chair, whatever is comfortable. And let's, for one more moment, pause and check in. Check in with what feels grounding and foundational for you. Maybe your feet on the floor, maybe your seat on the chair or the floor. Connecting to that sense of foundation, and at the same time to a sense of expansion, elevation, looking over the top of the mountain. I'll invite you to thread one element of your practice today to the rest of the day ahead. Maybe a connection to breath, maybe a sense of slowing down, maybe the movements, whatever makes sense to you, to try to carry that forward as you begin the rest of your day. And I want to take a moment here to thank you for taking time to practice with me.